My name is Stacy Hopwood, and I'm very involved in animal issues in our community. I currently serve on the board of directors for the Clarksville Humane Society. I speak for the scores of responsible dog owners in our community who walk with their leashed pets at city parks. As a resident of Ward 4, I was outraged when this body passed Ordinance 97, 2008-2009 on first reading at the June 4th meeting, with absolutely no prior notice to the council or to the public that it was being considered and voted on. Fortunately for Clarksville dog owners, it was presented as an ordinance requiring it to pass 2 readings before it became law. I have 2 major concerns with this ordinance as it is written. First of all, it would give the Parks and Recreation Department the authority to ban dogs at city parks or recreation areas of its choosing without having to come to the council for approval. I don't believe that the council should give up its authority as an elected body to a city department in such a broad and sweeping manner. This makes it far too easy for an individual who has not been elected by the people to make laws that will affect a large group of tax-paying citizens who will have no knowledge of, voice in, or representation in that matter. If the council cedes their authority to a department in this manner, unelected city officials can set policies that are in their own best interest and not necessarily those in the best interest of the tax-paying citizens who use city parks and who elected each of you to look out for them. Clarksville's parks exist so that members of the community who support them through our tax dollars can enjoy them. Thousands of Clarksvillians take advantage of our city parks, and many of us choose to do so with our leashed 4-legged companions. The Riverwalk specifically is designed for walking, and dog walkers are a huge part of the population that actually uses that park. It's also important to remember that the majority of Clarksville neighborhoods have no sidewalks, so the safest place to walk the family dog is often our local city park. My second major concern with the ordinance was the lack of problem solving. If the issue behind the ordinance was dog waste at the Riverwalk, which it was, according to the mayor and according to Missy Graham, who was the parks director at that time, I felt that there were other steps that could have been taken to try to resolve the problem before such a drastic solution as banning dogs was taken. The decision to ban dogs was extreme, especially since there were no other avenues that were considered prior to the ordinance being presented. During the June Parks and Recreation Committee meeting, a compromise was reached that the Parks Department would purchase and install dog waste receptacles at the Riverwalk, which would help provide the tools for the dog owners to pick up the waste. I felt this was a reasonable solution that should have been taken from the beginning. It's my belief that the situation would never have blown into the public outcry it did over the summer if those behind the ordinance had reached out to dog owners in an attempt to solve the dog waste problem. Dog owners tend to police our own, and believe me, irresponsible dog owners make me a lot angrier than they do any of you. The receptacles were put in place along the Riverwalk, and it's my understanding that the Parks and Recreation Director made a recent report that the dog waste problem had gone down since that installation and that there had not been any other major problems. It would seem that the compromise that was effected has been successful, so the need for the ordinance as written does not exist. I ask each of you to vote no on the second reading of Ordinance 97, 2008-2009 as it is currently written. Councilwoman McLaughlin is proposing an amendment tonight to this ordinance which will strike the previous language giving the authority to the Parks Department, and it will not ban dogs indiscriminately. Dogs are already prohibited by policy during certain city-sponsored events such as Riverfest and in certain city areas such as the ball fields at Swan Lake and Heritage Park. And these are sensible things. Those are very noisy, very crowded events that are not conducive necessarily to having dogs present. And I believe that Councilwoman McLaughlin's amendment will give some enforcement power to those policies because they will then be part of the city code and they can actually be enforced. I believe that that is a preferable amendment to the original ordinance, and I certainly appreciate the willingness of Councilwoman McLaughlin to listen to input on her amendment from concerned dog owners, especially since we aren't even in her ward. And I also want to express my appreciation for those of you, including my councilman, Mr. Red, and the other council members that were very receptive to our concerns. And when I say our, I'm referring to the dog owners in Clarksville. Thank you.
Thank you. Stacy. Sandy, was that you clapping back there? Okay. Before we start tonight, I noticed Barbara Johnson, Council Lady Barbara Johnson and Council Lady Candy Johnson not with us tonight. Unless they come in a little later, I'd like to ask that we keep in our thoughts and prayers. Barbara's called. Her blood sugar is low tonight, and she's won't be with us tonight. And I assume Ms. Johnson's still recovering. So just keep them in our thoughts and prayers if you would. Okay, Clarksville City Council regular session, November 5, 2009. Please come to order. I'd like to ask Councilman Wallace Redd to lead us in the prayer and Councilman Gino Grubbs to lead us in the pledge. Please rise.
Lord, we just thank you for allowing us to be the servants here of the people of Clarksville. And Lord, we just pray for the families of the shooting incident earlier today at the post in Texas. And Lord, we just pray that you comfort them. We don't always know why things happen, but Lord, we know that you are the comforter. Lord, we just pray for our fellow council members that are absent today, that you be with them as well. Lord, we just pray that we have open minds and we have open hearts to all of the issues, and Lord, that we just make decisions that is best for our constituents and the people of Clarksville. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before you are seated, in addition to what Councilman Redd just talked about what the incident at Fort Hood, Texas, those, if you don't know, there was a tragic situation down there tonight. We've had a minimum, Councilman Grubbs said there have been 13 that have died, and 31, I think, that have been injured at Fort Hood, a very tragic situation. So let's take just a moment with a moment of prayer for that family down, those families down there. Thank you very much. Very special friends in our midst tonight that we want to give particular respect to and appreciation for what we've done. Tonight, we want to ask Mr. Jim Gert to come forward. Jim was not here at the last council meeting, and we certainly want to appoint him. How are you, Jim? How are you? I want to be especially nice to you because Jim is going to the banking business. I may need to borrow some money. But it's certainly been an honor and privilege to work with Jim. I've had the distinct honor for 7 years to work with Jim, and he's certainly been a great Clarksville, and certainly a great supporting Clarksville. He's worked very hard in every job that you've done. And Jim, on behalf of the City Council and the entire city of Clarksville, thank you for your dedication to the city. And we want to give you, hopefully you'll be able to hang this in your nice big office that you have. I'd like to give you a mayor's certificate presented to Jim Durrett for your outstanding dedication and commitment to the city of Clarksville during your 32 years of employment. Your knowledge and professionalism has played a significant role in the successful operation of this city. Your hard work has not gone unnoticed by the community. On behalf of the City Council and the citizens of Clarksville, I commend you for your service and wish you the best in your retirement. Presented this the 5th day of November, 2009. Thank you very much, Tim.
Thank you, Mayor.
In addition to that, Jim has been instrumental and helpful on developing a coin representing our city of Clarksville. We would like to give you a coin presented by myself and the City Council November 5th, 2009.
Okay, so that one I snuck out of your office. I'm bringing back.
You're welcome to see. We have a couple more things here. David, Jeffrey, draw.
As many of you know, Jim, he was with the street department for many years before the mayor confiscated him from us. We never get to give Jim really a send-off, and he was kind of gone when his retirement was announced, so we'd like to recognize him as retired as official street department employee also. In recognition of your outstanding service and dedication to the city of Clarksville Street Department, having served 32 years, you exemplified exceptional leadership and professionalism, and has been an honor and a pleasure to have worked with you at the street department. Your knowledge and integrity have made you a valuable asset to this community, and you are commended for all your contributions and efforts presented on this day, 5th day, November 2009. Thank you,
We also have a special guest here tonight representing Congressman Marshall Blackman's office, Mr. Mike Knott.
Strategic, Jim, good to see you. Now, my boss specifically asked that I come tonight to read a statement that she made on the floor of the House of Representatives today in your honor, which will be forever enshrined in the congressional record. Your kids can go, grandkids can go 100 years from now and see the record of this. So I'd just like to read the statement she made on your behalf today. She rose and said, Madam Speaker, I ask my colleagues to join me in congratulating Mr. Jim Durrett of Clarksville, Tennessee upon his retirement after 32 years of civil service to the city of Clarksville. Jim's story is inspiring. A native son, he began his work with the city as a laborer in the street department. Jim worked diligently and continued to assume more and more responsibility, and eventually became the superintendent of that department and served capably in that role for 20 years, even through many difficult times. Jim's leadership over those years prepared him to be named as the mayor's chief of staff in 2007. Since that time, Jim has overseen the city's involvement in some of Clarksville's most exciting developments. The recruitment of Hemlock Semiconductor, the extension of the Riverwalk, beginning of construction on the Long-Awaited Marina, and many other important projects. Despite this heavy load of responsibility, Jim's strong work ethic, pleasant demeanor, and a continuing respect of his colleagues is remarkable. Please join me in honoring Jim Durrett on his service to the city of Clarksville and wishing him only the best in the years to come. Marshall Blackburn, member of Congress.
I won't say a lot. Please sit down. I'm very, very humbled by just all the gratitude that's been shown to me tonight, and really throughout my 32 years with the city of Clarksville. And the good Lord has really blessed me. He's blessed me with a great mom and dad who instilled in me, I think, some of the qualities that I have today. He's blessed me with a great career with the city of Clarksville, regardless of what a lot of people hear in the city about city employees. And sometimes they get a really, really bad rap, but it's not true. They're some of the hardest working people that I've ever worked with. And lastly, he's blessed me with the people that I've been associated, that I've worked with. And David, thank you. David and I go back. I was a year in front of him at the street department. We were both green behind the ears, and we grew up together in the street department. But everybody that's just, the department heads that the city has today are some of the greatest leaders that I think our city's ever had. We've got a great mayor, we've got a great council, and I just see great things happening in Clarksville. I was glad I was a part of it. I'm going to be on the outside, but I'm still going to be a part of it if they'll let me. And thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
He said he's gonna get out here because he's been to too many of these meetings.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Morris. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Wally, thank you. Appreciate it. Mr. Lewis, thanks, sir. Okay. I'll call you Fred. You too, man. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jim. We've been seeing you around.
Okay.
You're still on those committees. All that.
See?
Well, that didn't take long.
10 years is enough.
He knew what he said. We also have another very special guest with us tonight. We'd like to ask him to come forward. I'd like to ask Mike Black will come forward, and please bring your family. That beautiful girls, we want to make sure we get them up here so they can be recognized. Hi there. Nice to meet you. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Michael Blackwell was probably recognized in the newspaper. He's one of our local heroes that we want to recognize tonight. Normally, I have some input on that, but I've asked Chief Angela if he would to come forward and give some documentation record of what happened and what makes you such a hero.
On September 22nd, a motor vehicle crashed and injuries occurred at 701 Providence Boulevard. Radio traffic from dispatch advised that the driver was trapped inside and the vehicle was on fire. Several minutes later, dispatch advised that the driver was out of the vehicle. Upon arrival at the scene, it was discovered through the investigation that a citizen, later identified as Michael Blackwell, had pulled the driver, Elliot Meyer, from the vehicle as it was on fire. Mr. Blackwell pulled her to safety just before the vehicle became fully engulfed. After observing the charred vehicle, there is no doubt that Miss Meyer would have not survived the crash had it not been for Mr. Blackwell's swift and selfless act. Mr. Blackwell should be commended for his disregard of his own safety to ensure the safety of another. Congratulations.
So I guess you can understand why that when we use the word hero, this is a true example of a hero. And the least that we can do is offer you appreciation on behalf of the city of Clarksville. This is a mayor's certificate presented to Michael Blackwell in recognition and appreciation of your timely response to a vehicle crash at 701 Providence Boulevard on September 22nd, 2009. Your heroic efforts were directly responsible for the rescue of a female victim who had become trapped inside of her burning vehicle. Your quick and brave actions provided her with her only chance of survival. You are to be commended for disregarding your own safety to ensure the safety of another. On behalf of the City Council and the citizens of Clarksville, I thank you for your courageousness and selflessness. Presented this the 5th day of November, 2009. Congratulations. Thanks again. All right. Are you?
Great.
Thank you. A little different recognition that I should certainly overdue. As most of you know, we opened the Clarksville Greenways a few months ago. What a great success it's been. And I want to say that Rebecca Franklin was the one, I think you were the one that I first met over there, is that not right? And you talked with Ms. Badgett for me, and he called me. But she represents Vulcan Materials. And Vulcan Materials, once again, stood up as a good corporate citizen and accepted the request for donating material so we'd be able to do the Clarksville Greenways at a lesser cost that so we'd be able to afford it. So she is representing bulk of material tonight, and we want to thank her. But before we give her, I hope, a round of applause, there's something else that has allowed us to recognize them for going over the road. We are in the process of extending the river walk. And behind Old Charlie's, in the development phase and in the bidding phase, it was determined that we were going to need to clean out an area for a path for commercial property. The original projection was that it was going to be required to take out 4 feet of undercut. And so our bidding was based upon that, and our plan was based on that. When the core drilling began, it was determined that we needed more than 4 foot. We needed 10 foot of undercut. And the potential extra cost of that was going to be very significant. It could have even compromised the construction of that project. So once again, we went to Vulcan and Vincent was involved. And went to Vulcan and told them what our dilemma was and asked them if they would be willing once again to donate shot rock and any other material that was required to build it up from 10 foot below the elevation to up the level. And the potential cost could have been $30,000 plus. So on 2 different occasions that I'm familiar with, probably many more, but on 2 different occasions, this company, which you represent, has shown great support of this community, and we want to give them a great round of appreciation and applause. Thank you very much, Rebecca, for you and Vulcan. For all you do.
This time, would you please make sure all your cell phones are silent or turned off? There'll be no more applauding or outbursts during the meeting. Thank you in advance for your cooperation.
Okay, council, would you mind registering your attendance? Boy, is it chilly in here? Someone want to do something with the air conditioner? I thought it felt pretty good.
Well, I'm sure you can get it pushed back.
Well, be careful there, Ms. McLaughlin. Okay. Before we leave the area of special recognition, I want to remind the city of Clarksville and those of you here tonight that once again we received some additional recognition as Clarksville named as one of the best-sized cities for business according to CNN's Fortune Small Business Magazine. And you're to be congratulated for continuing to stay focused, for continuing to make your city the best it can be, and recognized not only here in Clarksville how much it was progressing, but we're recognizing not only in state but throughout the entire region for the great success we're having. So congratulations to each of you, congratulations to those of you that are here, and congratulations to the entire city of Clarksville for staying focused and finally realizing the vision, beginning to realize the vision that you've set for all those years. So God bless you, and we appreciate the recognition we're getting. Public hearing, Mr. Grubbs.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Madam Clerk, will you please read ordinance 44, 45, 46, and 48?
Ordinance 44, 2009, 2010, amending the zoning ordinance and map of the city of Clarksville, application of L&A Partners for zone change on property located at Hickory Grove Road and Riverside Drive from R2 Single Family Residential District to C2 General Commercial District. Ordinance 45, 2009, 2010, amending the zoning ordinance and map of the city of Clarksville, application of Nick Datillo for zone change on property located at Dunbar Cave Road and Rossview Road from R1 Single Family Residential District to R2 Single Family Residential District. Ordinance 46, 2009, 2010, amending the zoning ordinance and the official code relative to outdoor advertising, shared travel easement. Ordinance 48, 2009, 2010, amending the zoning ordinance and the official code relative to outdoor advertising, sidewalks.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mayor, I move we go into public hearing.
Second, any discussion? Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, regular session. Is there anyone here tonight to speak in favor of ordinance 44? Please come forward. Anyone in opposition to ordinance 44, please come forward. Anyone to speak in favor of ordinance 45, please come forward. Any opposition to ordinance 45, please come forward. Anyone to speak in favor of ordinance 46, please come forward. Those in opposition to 46, please come forward. Those in favor of ordinance 48, please come forward. Those in opposition to ordinance 48, please come forward. Thank you.
Mayor, I move we go back into regular session.
And second, any discussion? Those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Back in regular session.
Okay, as a reminder, all motions upon the advice of legal counsel shall be for approval. Okay, ordinance 44, 2009-10, both the staff and the Regional Planning Commission recommendation is for approval, and I so move.
Motion second, any discussion? Please press your selection. Okay, ordinance 44 is approved.
Ordinance 45, 2009-10, both the staff and the Regional Planning Commission's recommendation is for disapproval, and I so move. I'm sorry. The motion is for approval, the staff and the commission is for disapproval, the motion is for approval.
Okay, is there a second? And second, any discussion on ordinance 45, please notify. Seeing none, please press your selection. Ordinance 45 is disapproved.
Okay, ordinance 46, 2009-10, both the staff and the Regional Planning Commission's recommendation is for approval, and I so move.
And second, any discussion? Please press your selection. Okay, ordinance 46 approved.
Ordinance 48, 2009-10, both the staff and the Regional Planning Commission's recommendation is for approval, and I so move.
And second, Mr. Summers.
Yes, sir. In talking with Les in Building and Codes, I would like to propose an amendment to the ordinance, please. Would like to delete subsection number 9. Let me see if I can count this right. Go down to section 4, subsection 9. It reads, prior to placement of any sidewalk sign, a sign permit shall first be obtained through the City Department of Building and Codes. Related to our executive work session where we talked about initially a fees and having to get a permit and everything, and talking with Les, and they've talked to the DDP, we're looking to eliminate the need for a permit or fees on that. So I would propose an amendment to delete section 9.
And second, any discussion on the amendment? Please press your selection to delete item number 9.
We'll have to change that.
Okay. You want us to vote again, Madam Clerk? Joe Wallace, second. You ready, Madam Clerk?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, please press your selection on the amendment to delete. Okay, amendment's approved. Okay, what you have in front of you now is a vote on ordinance 48 as amended. Please press your selection. Ordinance 48 is approved.
And that concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Grubbs. Madam Clerk, consent agenda when you're ready.
All items in this portion of the agenda are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the council and may be approved by one motion. However, a member of the council may request that an item be removed for separate consideration under the appropriate committee report. Adoption of minutes September 24th, October 1st, and October 9th. Approval of board appointments. Community Health Foundation, Andre Fresco and Dr. Marcos Arancibio, November 2009 through February 2012. Fair Board, Condra Smalley, January 2010 through December 2011. Housing Authority, Frank Lott, October 2009 through September 2014. Museum Board, Dan Hanley, Jim Durrett, Mac Eddington, January 2010 through December 2012.
And second, any discussion on consent agenda? Yeah. That's why I got out of here, I believe. Those in favor of consent agenda, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, consent agenda is approved. Okay. Bill and codes, Mr. Red?
Codes enforcement, Mayor, worked 500 cases for the month of October, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Red. Community Development, Mr. Summers?
No report at this time.
Thank you, sir. Ms. McLaughlin on finance?
Ordinance 42 is amending the 2010 operating budget for Clarksville Fire and Rescue for insurance proceeds in the amount of $3,116. So we're receiving insurance funds, and I make a motion for approval.
Second, any discussion? Please press your selection. Okay, ordinance 42 is approved. Is that it, Ms. McLaughlin? Okay, thank you. Gas and water, Mr. Summers?
Ordinance 49, 2009-10, sir, first reading. Authorize an extension of water and sewer utility services outside the city limits, the request of Montgomery County Cattlemen's Association and James W. Bell. Make a motion for approval. It was approved during the Gas and Water Committee.
Second, any discussion? Seeing none, please press your selection. Orders 49 is approved. Thank you, sir. General Services, Mr. Harris? Thank you, sir. Parks and Recreation, Mr. Forrester?
Parks and Recreation Committee, we met with the Clarksville Montgomery County Community Action Agency concerning a possibility of joint venture with the Edison Park area. Community Action Agency is in need of offices, the central office as well as for its start programs. And we've been talking Parks and Recreation Committee about revitalizing the park, Edison Park. So I think some of the group has probably been doing maybe looking at the possibility of some federal grants to enhance this endeavor. So we're going to meet one more time to try to put together a proposal to bring to the council. So it's nothing finalized yet, but hopefully by the next voting council meeting we will have a recommendation.
Mr. Forrester?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry to say that all that didn't get on recording. Would you repeat that word for word? I just turned your microphone on.
Oh, okay. All right. I think everybody heard.
I think so. Anything else?
That's all. Thank you.
Mr. Forrester? Mr. Grubbs? Excuse me.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to make a comment as far as Parks and Recs goes. Friday night, we had the Fright on Franklin Street downtown, Parks and Recs, and a lot of the businesses participated. Started at 4 o'clock. It was fantastic. I've never seen so many kids downtown trick-or-treating. Ms. McLaughlin was there also, and we had a costume contest. It was great. So I hope that's something we'll be doing every year. I just wanted to mention it. Right, we were judging. But it was a great event. I just wanted to make a comment on it, sir.
Well, very good. Mr. Forrester, pass it on to your committee and to your Parks and Recreation. Sound like y'all doing a great job over there. Thank you, Mr. Grubbs. Mr. Grubbs, Public Safety.
Yes, Mayor. Fire Rescue for the month of October responded to 473 emergency response calls, and the CPD for September responded to 6,567 calls for service and complaints, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Grubbs. Street Committee, Mr. Lewis.
Mayor, the Street Department worked 288 work orders last month. As always, do an outstanding job. That concludes my report.
Thank you, sir. Transportation Committee, Mr. Allen? No report. Thank you, Mr. Allen. Okay, moving along to new business. We have ordinance 97, 2008 and 9. And this is second reading on amending the official code relative to pets in public parks. So I'll make a motion for approval, just so we can get it on the floor. Can I get a second? Second. Okay, does someone have something to say? Ms. McLaughlin, you're up.
I'm proposing an amendment. It's the yellow sheet of paper that you all have a copy of. I'd like to make an amendment striking the current language of Ordinance 97 and replacing it with the following language. Ordinance 97 amending ordinance amending the official code of the city of Clarksville relative to pets in parks. Whereas the city of Clarksville has determined that it is in the city's best interest to regulate animals in city public parks and other recreation areas in order to further public health, welfare, and safety purposes. Now therefore it be ordained by the City Council of the City of Clarksville, Tennessee, that Title III, Animals, Chapter 1, Animal Control, is amended by adding a new section, Section 3-111, entitled Regulations Governing Animals in City Parks and Recreation Areas, with the following language. Regulations governing animals in city parks and recreation areas. Dogs and other domesticated animals are prohibited from all city-owned and operated ball fields and are also prohibited at any city-owned or operated park or recreational area or city street during city-sponsored festival, concert, or holiday events unless otherwise announced and authorized by the City of Clarksville. This prohibition shall not apply to guide or service animals for the disabled within said city public parks or recreation areas or during said events. Any person, organization, or entity in violation of this provision may be issued a citation and assessed a civil fine in accordance with Section 3-310 of this chapter. I make a motion for approval of this amendment.
Any discussion on the proposed amendment?
Mr. Ed?
I just have a quick, this replaces the ordinance 97 that's here.
I
as
think
new
she's
business.
is this amending the ordinance? Is that what you're doing?
It's deleting the current language and replacing it with this.
Replace,
Okay.
I just wanted
Okay, so you are, what's the, Mr. Baker?
Yes, sir.
What would be the proper protocol on that if you're actually deleting you're amending the original ordinance by deleting the entire language?
Well, I assume that she's doing it that way because it's the easiest way. But a lot of some of the language is still the same from what passed on first reading.
So we need to amend it, pass the amendment, and then vote the full ordinance as amended?
Oh, yeah, I misunderstood what you were talking about. And yes, you have before you the version that passed on first reading. She has now sought to amend it, and it's been seconded. So you'll have to vote on her proposed amendment first, and if it passes, then that will become the new version to be voted on as amended. If it fails, then you'll still have what passed on first reading in front of you.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Okay. You have the amendment in front of you. Seeing no other discussion, please press your selection for your amendment. Okay. Amendment has passed. You're now would be voting on ordinance 97 as amended. And before we do that, I'd like to ask Mr. Mark Tummons to come up. One of the questions was about the city council giving up their authority, relinquishing their authority to the Parks and Recreation Department. And Mr. Tummons has a recommendation that you may want to include back in here. I think it's kind of, it should already be done anyway, probably, but go ahead, Mr. Tummons. I think it does.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Couple of things that I'd like to share first off, I appreciate Ms. Hopwood being here tonight. I think it's relatively important to understand that Parks and Recreation is desiring and wants to be animal friendly. And I think that's where we want to make sure that everybody understands that we're looking to be animal friendly, animal caring. We have tremendous staff who go to great lengths to assist in developing bark parks and other areas that we can walk and tend and care for our animals and our pets. And the other thing that we're looking at as well is a tremendous amount of education. Ms. Hopwood mentioned about responsible dog owners, and there are many responsible dog owners. And I think part of that is we've seen, and even speaking with our crew chief this week at McGregor Park, for example, and we have seen a decrease in the amount of dog waste that's just being left and not attended. Part of that could be we've opened the Greenway, and there's a lot of dogs and dog owners using that. The other is we've opened up a new bark park. So, and it's also the time of year. But he did tell me personally that they are using a lot of the mutt mitts, and the stations are working well. So part of it is education, and that's what our job is as Parks Department, is helping our residents, our citizens, our taxpayers, all of them, to be responsible, and that's what we're trying to do. So it's a lot of things through website, other types of PSAs, letting people know what to be responsible in the long run. So we're going to be working on some of those things. As the mayor mentioned a minute ago, we did discuss adding some language to the original ordinance. I have passed it out to two, and I've got more copies if you need me to. I haven't passed it out to everyone, but I'll be glad to do that.
I do think the need to, and this came up from Mr. Wallace's questions on Thursday, so this, I think this addresses that. You can handle it any way you want to. But I'm really more interested in understanding that what you're proposing is that, make sure I'm correct on this.
That's correct.
That what you're proposing is that, like any other committee, this would be brought to the committee for recommendation to the full council. Is that what you're proposing? Martin?
Yes, sir. That's exactly what's being proposed. I've probably, being here 6 weeks, I've probably researched at least 40 to 50 different ordinances across the country pertaining, and the vast majority are very similar to the original language. Many of them, and you can research for yourself, I mean, it's very easy to do. Many of them even give sole authority just to the director of parks to establish those rules. But we recognize what Mr. Wallace and Ms. Laughlin were talking about last week, and so we added some language, actually a couple of sentences in there, that states any such proposed rules or regulations shall not take effect until they have first been approved by the Parks and Recreation Committee of the City Council, and a copy of the same has been filed with the City Clerk. We feel like we still have the ability to make suggestions, recommendations to our Parks and Recreation Committee, allow them to approve that. We're not coming back to the full body each and every time that we may need to make recommendations that concerns animals in our parks, pets in our parks.
Okay, let me, because as you know, I learned about it over against the wall ago. What would happen under your proposal would be like any other committee report that we've gone through tonight. Under Parks and Recreation Committee report, if there's any action that's approved at the committee report, then the person that's in charge of that particular committee would give the report to the council at the next council meeting.
Absolutely.
That's generally our procedure. And you're asking to follow that procedure?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's it. You've got a question for me? Or for Mr. Thomas, I guess?
I just don't want the council to be confused here. You just a few moments ago passed the amendment. That amendment is completely different from what Mr. Cummins is proposing. His language is based on the first reading, and that language authorizes them to promulgate regulations. What passed just a moment ago doesn't do that at all.
First reading's completely changed.
It's totally different. And so if you're now wanting to, if you were to want to pass what Mr. Cummins is proposing, what you'll be doing in effect then is go back and re-adopt the exact language that was in first reading with the proposed change that he has proposed here. And the only change that he is proposing from what passed on first reading is that before any rules take effect, they have to be approved by the Parks and Rec Committee.
Mr. Wallace?
Thanks. Respectfully, I'm not for doing that, but I appreciate Councilwoman McLaughlin's amendment. The only thing that I saw that I thought might be confusing in here is that it just says unless otherwise announced and authorized by the city of Clarksville. And what I would want to do is say unless authorized by ordinance. And so I would move that we strike announced and the city of Clarksville and replace the city of Clarksville with ordinance.
We'll discuss that, and
Mayor, we think we've come up with a great compromise solution to help everybody involved, so.
I don't really know that really, as I think about it, that really even needs to be in the way of an ordinance. I think you're welcome to make a report to your committee anytime. So I think that if you're just saying, it sounds to me like you're saying that you want to, and I think you were trying to compromise from what you understood here. I think you're welcome to give the report to your committee anytime your committee meets, and then they can take up an action from that point forward if they want to. So I'm not sure, as a hearing, I'm not sure it's needed, and I think that's what Joel's saying too.
Okay.
Okay. Unless the council wants to bring it up, they can amend it on the floor or something.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, Joel has a motion on the floor to strike, Joel, what particular was that?
Mayor, it just clears up Councilwoman McLaughlin's amendment, which is now the ordinance, by saying that basically what her ordinance has done, her amendment, now the ordinance has adopted basically the current policy that Parks and Recreation has. If they want to change that policy, we're the policy-making body, so that needs to come through us. Okay, so this makes it clear that it would need to be done by ordinance through us.
Where you want to strike?
We're striking, I move to strike the word announced and the words by the city of, actually, the city of Clarksville, to replace the city of Clarksville with ordinance, so that it would read, unless otherwise authorized by ordinance.
Yes, you want to discuss the proposed amendment? Okay, yes, sir. Mr. Allen, you want to hit, wait a second, you got Ms. McLaughlin first, and then Mr. Harris second, and if you'll hit your button, I'll get you third.
Joel, the reason that I propose that language is because there are certain events that the Parks and Recreation Department may include dogs. So if they're going to have, under your amendment, if they're going to have an event like, an example was the dog day at the downtown market, where we have to pass an ordinance to say that they can go to that?
But it's unclear what the city of Clarksville, I think it needs to be made clear that what is the city of Clarksville? Who is that? Who makes that call?
Okay, so then, under your opposed amendment, we would have to pass it by ordinance on a case-by-case? Okay.
Okay, Mr. Harris?
Yes, Mayor, I was just looking for clarification. After we approved the amendment, and here we are now going back to what you mentioned in reference to the original almost with the language here, it's just...
Only if there's been no one made a motion.
We're on the yellow.
I mean...
You're still on yellow.
Okay, we're still on yellow, okay.
Yeah. Okay, anything?
No, that's it, Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Allen?
Kind of piggybacking off what Councilwoman McLaughlin said, that if the Parks and Rec come up with something, a program or something where dogs are welcome, I think it would be to require an ordinance. I think that's a bit much, you know. It may be something that they come up with that's not listed on here.
And that's fine, I think the policy needs to be still cleared up, how we're gonna do that, and that's fine. I'm open to any, if we wanna vote this up, you can vote it up or vote it down, and we'll come back to the main ordinance and go from there. But it just says by the city of Clarksville, so that means they could ban, the same thing could happen. The same thing, thank you.
It's not on
Okay.
there. One minute ago, go ahead.
But by saying just the city of Clarksville, we're back to where we started from, basically saying that they could outlaw dogs in city parks. By my reading, the mayor's office could do that, or you could direct the Parks and Recreation Department to do that, and I don't think that's what our constituents want. By the way I read
Mr.
the
Allen.
amendment that's on the floor.
You through, David? Okay. Mr. Ed?
Yes, I think it's a good idea to change that part too. It just cleared up, it makes it more specific, you know, like you said, what is the city of Clarksville? And this specifically says by ordinance, which is the city of Clarksville, because, meaning that us as a body. So I would be for changing that as well.
Ms. McLaughlin?
What is your interpretation of that? Because my intention on that was that if the city of Clarksville decided they were gonna have an event where they would allow dogs, that's what that is. It doesn't,
I think it would be better if you put in there
by ordinance.
either by ordinance, by resolution, or you could specify the Parks and Recreation Committee of the city council.
Okay.
Or you could just say by the city council. Using the city of Clarksville, I don't think is clear.
Okay.
But you could say resolution, ordinance, or I would suggest, either Parks and Recreation Committee. Because I do understand, if you're gonna make it ordinance, you're talking 2 months, unless you wanna have a special call meeting.
Right.
In order to make this work.
I'll change
Before
mine.
the event happens.
I'll change it to resolution.
Okay.
Second.
There
Okay,
you
so
go.
we're going to change from ordinance to resolution. Okay. So it's still unless otherwise authorized by resolution?
Yes.
Okay. Any other comments about the amendment,
To the amendment.
to the amendment, ordinance 97? Okay,
And
seeing,
just to make it clear, we say unless otherwise authorized by resolution of the city council.
Okay.
or by the city council? Whatever your wording.
Yeah,
By the city council. Okay. Seeing no other comments, Mr. Forrester, did you want to?
Whether it's regulation, a resolution, ordinance, or whatever, we've got to remember, it's setting the direction of what we want to see. And I think that needs to be set, and we as a council step back and let the administrative folks, which is Mr. Tummons and his department, carry out the direction that we've set. We don't need to get, this council does not need to get involved in the day-to-day operations of the department.
Ms. McLaughlin?
But we're to help with legislation to give them the direction to go in, and that's what this is.
That was my point.
Right.
Set the direction by legislation, and then back away and let them do their job.
Okay, I think if you don't mind, we'll just go ahead and, there's no others, so let's just go ahead and cease discussion and hit your vote. Bill, I'm not sure I got you, Bill Forrester, there you go. Okay, you're voting on Mr. Wallace's proposal to change the wording on Ms. McLaughlin's amendment that says unless otherwise authorized by resolution by the city council. Okay? Okay, then that passes. Okay, so what you have before you now is ordinance 97 as amended on two different amendments. Seeing no other discussion, please press your selection. Okay, ordinance 97 is approved as amended on second reading. I think that's right. Okay, second reading. Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you have a request to consider ordinance 50 in front of you. We'll need a three-quarter majority vote. Please press your selection if you would like to consider ordinance 50. Okay, motion approved. Second. You ready? Okay, please press your selection to consider ordinance 50. Okay. Ordinance 50 is on the floor for discussion. Can we get a motion for ordinance 50, please? And second, any discussion on ordinance 50? Seeing none, Ms. McLaughlin?
Can we just have a minute to look through it since we haven't had a chance to review this prior?
Sure. Yeah, we'll get someone to describe it. Do you want some, David, you want to discuss it?
Basically, we've entered into an agreement with the Presbyterian Church for parking, and that parking lot is needing some improvements. And so this money is being requested to improve the parking lot.
Did I say they've already began the improvement?
Hmm?
Have they already began the improvement?
Mhm. Not this part of it, though.
Okay.
No, not this part.
Okay.
Not this part.
Well,
No, not this part.
okay, it's a different part.
Different part.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Harris?
Yes, maybe Councilman Allen can answer this for me. When we discuss the city participating in this project with the parking authority with the church, we knew that there was gonna be some improvements or some cleaning done. What was the amount then? So this is additional 22, so we're talking 42 now?
No.
Okay, so we started off with 20, now we're at 22, so the difference is only $2,000. Gotcha.
It's the same amount that was reflected in the contract.
Okay.
In
That-
Exhibit B, $22,900.
Okay, so now it's just time to put the money up pretty much, that's what this is?
That's exactly correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, seeing no other discussion, ordinance 50 is in front of you, please press your selection. Ordinance 50 is approved. Madam Clerk, I noticed on ordinance 50 that there was no sponsor on that. Is there any reason for that?
Councilman Allen,
It wasn't on mine.
on two A, Councilman Allen.
Okay. It's just, it doesn't show up on mine, on mine. So, okay. Resolution 25 before you.
I move for approval.
Okay, there's a motion for approval. Why don't you hit your buttons? Ms. McLaughlin?
I believe that since Councilman Candy Johnson isn't here tonight, and this was her resolution, that we should postpone to our next voting session.
Second. Motion postponed, second. In discussion on the postponement. Wallace, you want to discuss the postponement?
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay. There's a motion, second on the floor. Please, seeing no discussion, please press your selection for postponement 30 days, till next regularly called council meeting. Is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
One more. David? Yes. Put David as yes, 10, nothing. Okay, resolution 25 is postponed. Any other business? We stand adjourned. Thank you very much.